So here's the thing about ancient prophecies. They're great for dramatic effect, terrible for actual clarity, and absolutely disastrous when you're relying on them to save your entire civilization from annihilation. But the Galactic Council didn't have a lot of options at this point, so they were working with what they had. Council leader Crix stood before the assembled delegates, all 7 of his eye stalks drooping with exhaustion. He'd been in emergency sessions for 3 straight cycles, and honestly, he was over it. The Vorthan Empire was expanding, their fleet was unstoppable, and every military strategist in the galaxy had basically shrugged and said good luck with that. That's when Scholar Pinnix burst into the chamber waving a data tablet like she'd just found the winning lottery numbers. "I've got it," she announced, her translator chip struggling to keep up with her excitement. "The prophecy of the fire tamers. It's real." Crix's eye stalks perked up slightly. "The children's tale? The one about mythical warriors who bend flame to their will and cannot be conquered?" "Not a tale," Pinnix insisted, projecting a hologram of ancient text that looked like someone had sneezed on a keyboard. "It's been mistranslated for centuries, but I've cracked it. The fire tamers exist, and I know where they are. Now, you'd think a civilization capable of faster-than-light travel would maybe double-check their sources here. Maybe run a few background checks. Perhaps send a probe first. But desperation makes you stupid, and the Galactic Council was operating at peak desperation. Pinnix pulled up a star chart and pointed to a small blue planet in an unremarkable solar system. "Here, 3rd planet from their sun. The signals we've intercepted are unmistakable. Look at this transmission." She played what the Council believed was a tactical military broadcast. A human male was speaking directly to the camera with the kind of intensity usually reserved for war. Declarations. "All right, folks, welcome back to Derek's Weekend Warrior channel. Today we're going to talk about fire-starting techniques that'll save your life in the wilderness. We're talking friction, we're talking flint, we're talking batteries, and steel wool." The council chamber fell silent. On screen, Derek was demonstrating how to create fire with nothing but 2 sticks and determination. "By the 7 suns," whispered Crix, "he summons fire from wooden implements, with his bare hands." "Wait, there's more," Pinnix said, fast-forwarding. Derek was now casually holding a flaming torch while explaining fire safety. "Notice how he controls it, commands it. He shows no fear whatsoever." Another delegate leaned forward. "What kind of warrior broadcasts their techniques so openly?" "The kind that fears nothing," Pinnix said confidently, which was absolutely not the correct interpretation but sounded impressive enough. "They're so dominant. They mock their enemies by sharing their everment, secrets freely." The video continued with Derek cooking something over an open flame while his daughter yelled at him from off-screen about forgetting the marshmallows. The council interpreted this as a subordinate warrior demanding offerings be made to the sacred fire. Crix made a decision that would go down in galactic history as either brilliant or catastrophically stupid. The jury was still out. "Prepare a diplomatic vessel. We're going to Earth. And someone find me a translator who understands military protocols, because we're about to recruit ourselves some fire tamers." Spoiler alert. They were absolutely not about to recruit fire tamers. They were about to recruit a middle-aged dad with a camping obsession, his mortified teenage daughter, and a conspiracy theorist who was one YouTube video away from building a bunker in his backyard. But nobody knew that yet, which is what made what happened next so spectacularly entertaining. The Galactic Council's diplomatic vessel descended on Pinewood State Park on a Saturday afternoon, which was either perfect timing or the worst timing possible depending on your perspective. Derek had just finished setting up his premium 4-season tent, the one he'd been bragging about on his channel for 3 months, and was now attempting to teach his daughter Megan the ancient art of fire building. "See, the key is oxygen flow," Derek explained with the enthusiasm of a man who genuinely believed this was quality father-daughter bonding time. "You've got to arrange your kindling in a teepee formation. Dad, we have a lighter. We have literally brought fire in a can." "That's not the point, sweetie. It's about the skill, the tradition, the connection to our ancestors. Our ancestors would have used the lighter." Randy, Derek's best friend since college, was sitting in a folding chair nearby, scrolling through his phone and muttering about weather balloons. He'd been suspicious of everything since the government admitted UFOs were real, and now he was vindicated and absolutely insufferable about it. That's when the ship appeared. It didn't so much land as hover ominously about 20 feet off the ground, humming with the kind of sound that makes your teeth itch. The hull was covered in symbols that probably meant something very important in whatever language they were written in. But to the camping trio, it looked like someone had let a toddler loose with glow-in-the-dark stickers. "I knew it!" Randy screamed, dropping his phone and scrambling backwards over his chair. "I freaking knew it. Derek, I told you about the lights over Phoenix. Megan pulled out her phone and started recording. If I'm getting abducted, I'm at least getting TikTok famous first. Because Derek was built different, just stood there with his half-assembled kindling and grinned. Oh man, is this one of those prank shows? Are we on TV? Randy, did you set this up? Why would I set up my own nightmare? A door appeared in Rossinen life, the side of the ship where no door had been before, which was a neat trick, and a ramp extended down. 3 figures descended, and this is where things got interesting. Crix came first, all 7 eye stalks swiveling to take in the scene. He was followed by Pinnix, who was clutching her data tablet like a security blanket, and a large warrior named Thornak, who was basically the galaxy's equivalent of a bodyguard but with more tentacles. Greetings, fire tamers, Crix announced, his translator making him sound like a GPS with delusions of grandeur. We come seeking your aid in our darkest hour. Derek's grin got wider. Oh wow, you guys went all in on the costumes. The eye things are incredible. Animatronics? Crix's eye stalks blinked in confusion. I assure you, we are quite real. We have traveled far to witness your legendary mastery of flame. This is when Derek, bless his oblivious heart, decided to demonstrate. He struck a match, touched it to his kindling pile, and the whole thing went up in a very respectable little campfire. The 3 aliens literally jumped backwards. Thornak pulled out what was definitely a weapon. Pinnix started recording frantically on her tablet. By the void, Crix whispered. He summons it so casually, as if it costs him nothing. That's because it literally costs like $2 for a box of matches, Megan said. But nobody was listening to her. Randy had gone completely pale. Derek, buddy, I don't think this is a prank show. Don't be ridiculous. Of course it is. Hey, when does the host come out? Is it that guy from the network? Oh man, wait till the guys at work see this. Derek walked toward the aliens with his hand extended for a handshake, still holding the lit match in his other hand. This caused Thornak to actually fire a warning shot that vaporized a nearby tree. Okay, Megan yelled. Okay, that was real. That tree is gone. Dad, the tree is gone. Derek finally stopped smiling. He looked at the smoking crater, where a perfectly good pine tree had been. Then he looked at the match in his hand, then back at the aliens. So not a prank show then? No, said Crix carefully. We are the Galactic Council. We have come to request your assistance in defeating the Vorthan Empire. Your species' legendary ability to control and weaponize fire makes you ideal candidates for our cause. There was a long pause, a very long pause. The kind of pause that happens when someone's entire worldview is being forcibly renovated. Randy fainted, just straight up collapsed into his chair. Megan looked at her phone. I have so many questions, but my main one is, does your ship have Wi-Fi? Because I'm not going anywhere without Wi-Fi. And Derek, because Derek's brain had apparently decided to just roll with it, said the words that would doom them all to the galaxy's most chaotic military campaign. You know what? Sure. This camping trip was getting boring anyway. Crix's eye stalks drooped with relief. He had found his fire tamers, his legendary warriors, his salvation. He had, in fact, found a middle-aged man having a midlife crisis, a teenager who'd given up on being impressed by anything, and an unconscious conspiracy theorist. Close enough. Randy woke up on the alien ship about 10 minutes later, looked around at the glowing walls and floating furniture, and immediately tried to faint again. Megan caught him. Nope, you don't get to check out now. If I have to be conscious for this, so do you. The ship's interior looked like someone had asked an AI to design a spaceship after only showing it pictures of fancy hotels and modern art museums. Everything was smooth, curved, and faintly luminescent. Derek kept trying to touch things, and Pinnix kept having minor panic attacks every time he got close to something important. Please do not touch the quantum stabilizer. Which one's that? All of them. Everything here is a quantum stabilizer. Crix had assembled them in what was apparently a briefing room, though it looked more like a therapy circle. He pulled up a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy with a concerning amount of red spreading across it like a cosmic rash. This, Crix began, gesturing dramatically with 3 of his eye stalks, is the Vorthan Empire. They have conquered 47 systems in the last cycle alone. Their military operates with perfect efficiency, overwhelming coordination, and absolutely no mercy. Okay, Derek said, nodding like he understood any of this. And you want us to do what exactly? Fight them, Thornak rumbled, speaking for the first time. His voice sounded like gravel being processed through a cement mixer. Your species are the prophesied fire tamers, warriors of legend. Megan raised her hand. Quick question. What made you think we're warriors? Pinnix pulled up Derek's camping channel on her tablet. Your instructional warfare broadcasts. The casualness with which you demonstrate lethal techniques. Your complete lack of fear when handling combustive elements. That's a camping vlog. A what? He teaches people how to not die in the woods, Megan explained slowly. For fun. It's a hobby. There was a silence that could be described as profoundly uncomfortable. But the fire, Crick said weakly. You command it so effortlessly. Yeah, because we invented matches like 500 years ago. And lighters. And flamethrowers. Honestly. But those are frowned upon for camping. Randy, who had been quietly processing his existential crisis in the corner, suddenly perked up. Wait. You're telling me that humans are the only species in the entire galaxy that casually uses fire? Fire is dangerous, Thornax said, with the tone of someone stating the obvious. Unpredictable. Most civilizations moved past combustion-based technology millennia ago. It's considered primitive. Volatile. But you still use it for weapons, Randy pointed out, gesturing at the scorch mark on Thornax's holster. That's different. That's contained plasma. Controlled energy. Not wild chemical reactions that consume oxygen and spread uncontrollably. Derek's eyes lit up. Oh man. So you guys are scared of fire? We have a healthy respect for destructive forces. Yes. You're scared of fire, Derek repeated, grinning. And you think we're special because we use it to cook hot dogs. When you phrase it that way, it sounds less impressive, Crix admitted. Megan was scrolling through her phone, which miraculously still had service somehow. Dad, DAD. If they're this freaked out by a campfire, what happens when they learn about fireworks? Or combustion engines? Or that thing Randy built in his garage? That was a theoretical rocket, Randy said defensively. It exploded, theoretically. Crix's eye stalks were doing something that might have been the alien equivalent of a migraine. Perhaps we have made an error in judgment. Perhaps? Pinnix squeaked. But then, Thornax stepped forward, and despite being terrifying, he had a point. Error or not, they are here now, and the Vorthan fleet will arrive at our homeworld in less than 10 cycles. We have no other options. He turned to the humans. Will you help us or not? Here's where you'd expect the humans to politely decline and ask to be returned to Earth. That would be the sensible thing, the safe thing, the thing that any reasonable person would do. But Derek was bored with his corporate job and having a midlife crisis. Megan was 16 and thought everything was boring anyway, so at least this was interesting. And Randy had spent the last decade being called crazy for believing in aliens. And now he had a chance to prove himself right to the entire galaxy. Okay, Derek said, but I have conditions. 1, we get sent home safe when this is done. 2, I want footage for my channel, because the guys at work will never believe this. And 3, you're going to teach me how that tree vaporizing thing works. Absolutely not. Fine. 2 out of 3. Crix looked at Pinnix. Pinnix looked at Thornac. Thornac looked at the humans and made a decision that was either brave or suicidal. Done. But first, we train. You may have natural talent with fire, but you know nothing of galactic warfare. I mean, we have movies, Megan offered. Those don't count. They should, though. And so began the galaxy's most dysfunctional military training program, featuring 3 humans who had no business being there, and an alien military that was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't fire. It was the fact that we were too stupid to know when we were supposed to be scared. The Galactic Council's military training facility was state-of-the-art, which meant it was boring, sterile, and designed by people who had never experienced fun in their entire lives. Everything was organized, efficient, and color-coded. Naturally, the humans were about to ruin all of it. Commander Zrel, a 4-armed military strategist, who looked like a praying mantis, had a baby with a filing cabinet, stood before them with a holographic display of tactical formations. Warfare is about precision, Zrel explained, moving digital troops into perfect geometric patterns. Coordination. Predictability. Each unit must know exactly where every other unit will be at all times. That sounds boring, Megan said, not looking up from her phone. It sounds effective. Those aren't mutually exclusive, but okay. Derek raised his hand like he was in 3rd grade. Question. What if the enemy also knows where you're going to be because you're, predictable? Zrel's antennae twitched. The Vorthan Empire has used these formations for 3,000 years. They are proven. Yeah, but have you tried not doing that? Why would we do something that isn't proven? Randy, who who had been taking notes like his life depended on it, chimed in. Actually, military history on Earth shows that unconventional tactics often defeat superior forces. The element of surprise is a massive advantage. Chaos is not a tactic, Zrel insisted. It literally can be, though, Megan said, finally looking up. There's a whole Sun Tzu thing about it. Who is Sun Tzu? A guy who would have hated your boring formations. The actual training exercises went about as well as you'd expect. They started with a simulation where the humans were supposed to pilot small fighter craft in a coordinated attack pattern. The alien pilots flew in perfect synchronization, their ships moving like a choreographed dance. Derek immediately crashed into an asteroid. Whoops, my bad. These joysticks are sensitive. Those aren't joysticks, the instructor said. Those are neural interface controls. Well, that explains why thinking about scratching my nose made me barrel roll. Megan somehow managed to fly her ship backwards the entire time while texting. When asked how, she just shrugged. I don't know. I wanted to see if I could. Randy didn't crash, but he did spend the entire exercise convinced the simulation was rigged and started hacking into the system to prove it. He was right. The simulation was rigged, just not the way he thought. When he accidentally triggered the emergency protocols, every ship in the simulation ejected their pilots at once. This is a disaster, Zrel moaned, watching the chaos unfold. Thornak, who had been observing silently, tilted his head. Actually, look at the enemy formation. The simulated Vorthan ships had completely broken ranks, trying to respond to the humans' unpredictable movements. Their perfect coordination became a weakness when they couldn't predict where the humans would be because the humans didn't know where they'd be either. That proves nothing, Zrel insisted. It proves we're really good at being really bad, Derek said cheerfully. The weapons training was worse, or better, depending on your perspective. The alien weapons were sophisticated energy devices with 17 safety protocols and user manuals the size of phone books. They were designed to never misfire, never overload, and never do anything interesting whatsoever. Derek looked at his assigned weapon. Does it have a flamethrower attachment? Why would we attach a primitive combustion device to advanced plasma technology? Because it would be awesome? That's not a valid tactical reason. Your face isn't a valid tactical reason. Megan's weapon kept refusing to fire because she hadn't completed the required certification modules. She got bored and figured out how to bypass the safety protocols in about 15 minutes. When it finally fired, it punched a hole clean through 3 walls and into the cafeteria. How did you do that? Zrel demanded. I just pressed all the buttons at once to see what would happen. That should have locked the weapon down permanently. Yeah, it gave me a warning message. I clicked proceed anyway. Randy, meanwhile, had become genuinely interested in the technology and was having an actual productive conversation with one of the alien engineers about energy efficiency. This lasted for about 10 minutes before he started explaining his theories about how the weapons could be modified to run on alternative fuel sources. What you're describing would make the weapon incredibly unstable, the engineer said. Yeah, but more powerful, right? Significantly more powerful, yes, but you'd have a 30% chance of it exploding in your hands. I'm hearing 70% chance of success. That's not how probability works. That's exactly how probability works when you're desperate. By the 3rd day of training, something weird started happening. The alien soldiers, who had been skeptical and slightly terrified of the humans, started actually enjoying themselves. They'd spent centuries following the same protocols, the same formations, the same boring, predictable tactics. Watching Derek accidentally win a combat simulation by tripping over his own feet and hitting the exact right button combination was the most entertainment they'd had in years. Watching Megan sass her way through a hostage negotiation scenario by convincing the simulated hostage takers that they were all having a shared hallucination was genuinely impressive. Watching Randy's paranoid pattern recognition correctly predict enemy movements 3 times in a row because he'd convinced himself the simulation was trying to trick him was actually useful. They're growing on me, Thornak admitted to Crix one evening. They're a liability. Perhaps, but they're an unpredictable liability. And the Vorthan Empire has never faced unpredictable before. Crix watched as Derek tried to high-five an alien recruit and accidentally set off the fire suppression system with the static electricity. That's what I'm afraid of. The Vorthans will be more afraid. That's also what I'm afraid of. In the corner, Megan was teaching a group of young alien soldiers about psychological warfare by showing them compilation videos of customer service workers dealing with difficult customers. They were horrified and fascinated in equal measure. So you just smile and remain calm while the enemy is being completely irrational? One asked. Yep, it's called killing them with kindness. Very effective. Drives them insane. Randy had somehow acquired a whiteboard and was drawing elaborate conspiracy theory diagrams that were accidentally accurate tactical predictions. 3 alien strategists were studying his work with growing concern. If this is what humans do without training, one whispered, what are their actual soldiers like? Nobody wanted to answer that question. Derek chose that moment to walk past juggling 3 plasma grenades because someone had told him they were inert, and he wanted to test his reflexes. They were not inert. Thornak caught them with his tentacles before disaster struck. The Vorthan fleet arrives tomorrow, he said quietly. Ready or not, this is happening. Derek grinned. Cool. Do we get matching uniforms? Because I've always wanted matching uniforms. The galaxy was about to experience what happened when you gave humanity's chaos merchants weapons and pointed them at an organized enemy. It wasn't going to be pretty, but it was definitely going to be memorable. The Vorthan fleet arrived exactly on schedule, because the Vorthan Empire did everything exactly on schedule. Their ships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, 300 vessels arranged in a geometric pattern that had been refined over millennia of conquest. They looked like a swarm of metallic hornets, and they were about as friendly. Admiral Krenth, commanding the Vorthan flagship, reviewed the intelligence on their opponent. The Galactic Council's defense force was laughably small, poorly coordinated, and historically useless in combat. This would take approximately 2 hours, accounting for the formal surrender negotiations. What the intelligence report did not mention was that the Council had recruited 3 humans who were armed with camping equipment and bad ideas. All ships, attack formation Delta 7, Krenth commanded. Proceed as planned. On the Council's command ship, Crix was having a mild panic attack. They're here. They're actually here. We're all going to die. Not with that attitude, Derek said, buckling himself into the co-pilot seat of a fighter craft that he'd barely learned to fly. He'd attached his portable camping stove to the dashboard with duct tape. Why? Nobody knew. Not even Derek. Megan was in the communications hub, wearing a headset and looking deeply unimpressed with everything. So I just talk into this and it broadcasts to everyone? Yes, but only use it for tactical updates, the communications officer said nervously. Right. Tactical. Got it. Randy was in the weapons control room, surrounded by screens and sensors, having the time of his life. I can see everything. Everything. This is better than my basement setup. Oh man, I wish my forum buddies could see this. Zrel stood at the tactical display, watching the Vorthan fleet advance with mathematical precision. They'll hit us with a standard pincer movement. We should respond with defensive formation Theta 9. Or, Derek said over the comm system, and hear me out here. What if we just did whatever we felt like? That's not a strategy. Exactly, so they won't see it coming. Before Zrel could argue, Derek gunned his fighter's engines and shot directly toward the enemy fleet. Not at an angle. Not with any tactical consideration. Just straight ahead, like he was merging onto a highway. Crix screamed, I don't know, but I'm doing it with confidence. The Vorthan fleet's coordination algorithms immediately tried to calculate Derek's trajectory and intent. They failed, because Derek's trajectory was forward and his not extensiony. Intent was, seems fun. 17 ships broke formation trying to intercept him, which created gaps in their perfect geometric pattern. Randy saw the gaps immediately. Oh, there. Send ships there. Where? Zrel demanded. There. Randy was pointing at his screen frantically. They're compensating for the crazy guy, which means they're weak on the flanks, which means if we hit them from the sides, that's actually tactically sound. Zrel admitted, surprised. All ships, exploit the openings in sectors 7 and 12. Megan's voice came over the comms, bored and drawling. Hey Vorthan people, quick question. Why do you all fly in the same pattern? Like, doesn't that get boring? I'm bored just watching you. Is this a cult thing? Do you need someone to talk to? We have counseling services. In the Vorthan flagship, Krenth stared at his communications officer. Is that enemy psychological warfare? I think that's a human juvenile, sir. Make it stop. I've tried blocking. The frequency. She's somehow broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. Megan continued. Also, your ships are all the same color. That's so sad. Where's the personality? The self-expression? Have you guys considered therapy? My dad's insurance might cover it. 3 Vorthan pilots actually hesitated, which in a formation that required split-second coordination was catastrophic. 2 ships collided. It wasn't a major collision, but it was enough to disrupt their attack vector. Derek, meanwhile, had discovered that his camping stove, when attached to the ship's exhaust port and turned on full blast, created a massive plume of fire that looked absolutely terrifying, even though it wasn't actually doing any damage. "Behold my fire weapon," he yelled over the comms, because subtlety had never been his strong suit. The Vorthan ships scattered. Not because the fire was dangerous, it wasn't, but because their entire tactical database said that species who weaponized open flame were either insane or unbelievably powerful. And either way, you didn't want to be near them. "They're retreating from Sector 4, Thornak reported, bewildered, because of a camping stove. "A what?" Crix shrieked. Randy had pulled up the Vorthan fleet's movement patterns and was analyzing them with the same intensity he used to analyze grainy UFO footage. Okay. They're reforming. They're going to try to surround us. Classic maneuver. But look, if they're doing that, then they're expecting us to defend, which means we should attack. Specifically here, and here." He pointed at 3 seemingly random points on his screen. "How do you know that?" Zrel demanded. "Because that's what I would do if I was an evil empire trying to fake us out before the real attack. Which means they're probably doing it. Which means we should. Your logic makes no sense. And yet he's been right 3 times today." Thornak rumbled. "Do it." The Council ships moved to Randy's coordinates. Sure enough, the Vorthan ships had been preparing to strike from those exact positions. The ambush became a head-on collision, and in close quarters chaos, the Vorthan's perfect coordination became a liability as ships tried not to hit each other. The Council ships, who were already flying in barely controlled chaos because they'd been taking cues from Derek, had no such problems. They were used to not knowing where their allies were going to be. Megan had switched from existential mockery to playing music over the comms. Specifically, she was playing the most obnoxious pop songs from Earth's early 2000s. The Vorthan Communications Network, designed to carry precise tactical data, was now blasting "Who Let the Dogs Out" at maximum volume. "I can't block it," the Vorthan Communications officer reported. "She's cycling through frequencies faster than our systems can adapt." "What kind of advanced jamming technology is this?" Krenth demanded. "Sir, I think she's just very annoying." Derek had somehow gotten behind the Vorthan flagship and was following it around like an overeager puppy, constantly firing random weapons and occasionally missing and hitting his own allies. The flagship kept trying to shake him but couldn't without breaking formation with the rest of the fleet. "Sir, should we engage the single fighter?" a Vorthan officer asked. "No, it's clearly a distraction. Maintain formation." "But sir, he just set something on fire." "On fire? In space?" "I don't know how, sir, but yes." It was the camping stove. Derek had figured out that if he vented atmosphere past it at just the right angle, he could create a brief fireball. It was completely useless as a weapon. It was absolutely fantastic as a terror tactic against species who thought fire was something only lunatics used. Randy noticed something else. Hey, their formation is breaking down. They're getting frustrated. If we hit them now, like really hit them, they might actually retreat. "The Vorthan Empire doesn't retreat," Zrel said. "They've never fought humans before," Thornak countered. "All ships, full assault. Channel human tactics." "What does that mean? Do something unpredictable." What followed was less a coordinated military strike and more like a bar fight in space. Council ships attacked from random angles, fired at random intervals, and generally made themselves as impossible to predict as possible. The Vorthan ships, which operated on algorithms designed for logical opponents, started making errors. Small ones at first, then bigger ones. Derek flew his ship upside down for no reason other than to see if he could. Megan started reading bad poetry over the comms. Randy fed deliberately wrong information to the Vorthan network after hacking into their systems, not to damage them, but just to make them second-guess their own sensors. In the Vorthan flagship, Admiral Krenth made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his career. All ships, retreat. Full withdrawal. "Sir? We're not equipped to fight this, whatever this is. But sir, we outnumber them 10 to 1. I don't care. Look at them. They're either geniuses or complete idiots, and either way, I'm not risking my fleet to find out which." The Vorthan fleet jumped to hyperspace in the most organized retreat in military history, which was ironic, considering they were running from the most disorganized defense in military history. On the Council command ship, there was silence. Complete, stunned silence. Then Crix started laughing. A weird, slightly unhinged laugh that suggested he'd lost his grip on reality somewhere around the time Derek had weaponized camping equipment. "We won," he said. "We actually won, with humans, and a camping stove." "Don't forget the annoying music," Megan added helpfully. How could I possibly forget the annoying music? Derek's voice crackled over the comms. So does this mean we're heroes? Because I'm definitely putting this on my channel. Do you guys sign autographs? Can I get you to sign autographs? The galaxy had just learned a very important lesson about humanity. We didn't win because we were better warriors. We won because we were too chaotic to predict, too stubborn to quit, and too ridiculous to take seriously until it was too late. Also, apparently, fire was really scary if you weren't used to it. Who knew? The victory celebration on the Galactic Council's homeworld was exactly the kind of over-the-top spectacle you'd expect from a civilization that had just narrowly avoided complete annihilation. There were lights, floating platforms, thousands of alien dignitaries, and what appeared to be the galaxy's equivalent of a marching band, except they floated and made sounds that human ears weren't entirely designed to process. Derek, Megan, and Randy stood on a raised platform in front of what had to be 500,000 aliens of various species, all cheering in their respective languages, which created a sound like a zoo having a collective nervous breakdown. "This is surreal," Randy whispered, gripping the podium in front of him like it might save him from floating away. "I'm on an alien planet, receiving an award for conspiracy theories and paranoia." "You're receiving an award for accidentally being right," Megan corrected, wearing the formal ceremonial robes they'd been given, which looked like someone had gift-wrapped her in holographic tinfoil. "There's a difference. I'll take it either way." Derek was waving at the crowd with both hands, absolutely eating up the attention. He'd already taken approximately 300 selfies and had been informed 6 times that his communication device, his phone, didn't actually have service here and wasn't uploading anything to his channel. He kept trying anyway. Crix approached the podium, all 7 eye stalks extended to maximum height for the formal occasion. He looked significantly less exhausted than when they'd first met, though there was still a slight twitch in his leftmost eye stalk that suggested he'd developed some kind of stress condition. "Citizens of the Galactic Council," Crix announced, his voice amplified across the massive plaza. "Today we honor 3 individuals who, against all odds and quite possibly all logic, saved our civilization from the Vorthan Empire." The crowd erupted in cheers. Someone shot off what appeared to be fireworks, except they were silent and smelled like lavender. Derek immediately wanted to know how they worked. "These humans," Crix continued, gesturing toward them, "demonstrated courage, ingenuity, and a complete disregard for conventional military strategy that somehow, and I cannot stress enough how much this word is doing heavy lifting here, somehow worked." "Is he complimenting us or insulting us?" Megan muttered. "Yes," Randy answered. Crix pulled out 3 medals that looked like crystallized starlight. "They probably were, knowing alien technology. It is my honor to present you with the highest military decoration the Council can bestow, the Star of Valor." He approached Derek first, attempting to place the medal around his neck. Derek immediately grabbed it to look at it closer. "Oh wow, this is beautiful. Is this actual star matter? Can I take this through airport security back home? Does it need special storage? Please just wear the medal." "Right, sorry, I'm just excited." "This is so cool." Crix moved to Megan, who accepted her medal with a nod and immediately went back to looking at her phone, which still had no service but apparently had downloaded games on it. "You're receiving a galactic military honor," Crix said. The highest honor we can give. That's great. Could you at least pretend to care?" Megan looked up, gave him a thumbs up, and went back to her phone. Crix's eye stalks drooped in defeat. Randy accepted his medal with shaking hands and immediately started crying. "This is the best day of my life." Nobody believed. Me. 20 years of people calling me crazy, and now I have proof. Proof! The medal isn't technically proof of alien existence since you can't take it back to Earth, Pinnix pointed out gently. "Don't ruin this for me." After the medals were distributed, Crix launched into what was clearly meant to be a prepared speech about unity, courage, and the bonds forged in battle. He got about 3 sentences in before Derek interrupted. "Hey, quick question. So that prophecy thing, the fire tamers, were we actually the people you were looking for, or was this like a wrong number situation?" The crowd went silent. Crix's eye stalks froze mid-gesture. Pinnix dropped her data tablet. "I'm sorry, what?" Crix said slowly. "The prophecy. You said we were the legendary fire tamers, but we're just people who go camping. So like, were we the right ones? Or did you guys maybe make a tiny mistake?" Pinnix scrambled to pick up her tablet, scrolling frantically through her research. Her translator made a sound that was probably the alien equivalent of nervous laughter. "Well," she said, dragging out the word like she was trying to reverse time through sheer force of will. "Technically speaking, There may have been a minor translation issue. How minor? Thornak rumbled from his position at the side of the stage. The prophecy didn't say fire tamers. It said fire users. The silence somehow got more silent. Fire users, Crix repeated flatly. Yes. The ancient text uses a very specific character that means those who utilize, not those who master. It's a subtle distinction in the original language. And You may have what? Misread it? Pinnix offered weakly. In my defense, the character for tame and use are very similar in ancient Praxian script, and it's been millennia since anyone actually, so we recruited random humans, Crix said, his voice achieving a pitch that suggested he was having an out-of-body experience. Random camping enthusiasts, based on a translation error. Technically, yes, but it worked out. So, it worked out? We nearly died. Multiple times. They set things on fire in space. That was pretty cool, though, Derek interjected. It was not cool. It was terrifying. Megan looked up from her phone. So you're saying we weren't special? We were just random humans who happened to match your misread prophecy? I mean, when you phrase it like that, Pinnix started. That's hilarious, Megan said, and went back to her phone. The crowd was starting to murmur. Thousands of aliens who had just been cheering for their prophesied saviors were now realizing that said saviors were just 3 random people who got lucky. Randy, however, was not having an existential crisis about this. He was grinning. But we still saved you, right? Prophecy or not, wrong translation or not, we actually did defeat the Vorthan Empire. Thornak nodded slowly. This is true. Prophecy may have been misinterpreted, but the result was real. These humans, through their chaos and unpredictability and complete disregard for sensible tactics, achieved what our entire military could not. So, what you're saying, Derek said, his grin spreading, is that regular humans, with no special powers or destiny or anything, just regular people with camping gear and bad ideas, saved the entire Galactic Council. Crix stared at him. All 7 eye stalks focused on Derek with an intensity that could have melted steel. Yes, he said finally. That is exactly what happened. That's even better, Derek shouted, throwing his hands up. That's the whole point. We didn't need to be special. We just needed to be human. Oh man, wait till Earth finds out about this. We're going to be legends. You absolutely cannot tell Earth about this, Crix said quickly. Why not? Because, Crix paused, his eye stalks waving in what might have been the alien equivalent of a panic attack. Because if the rest of your species is anything like you 3 and they learn about the galactic community, they will come up here with their chaos and their fire, and their complete lack of regard for established military doctrine, and they will turn the entire galaxy into whatever the human equivalent of a camping trip is. A road trip? Megan offered. A bar crawl, Randy suggested. Whatever it is, no. The galaxy is not ready. We just barely survived, you 3. We cannot handle 7 billion of you. Derek considered this. That's fair. But we're still going to need a ride home. Already arranged, Thornak said. We've prepared a ship to return you to Earth. It's equipped with memory suppression technology that will make everyone believe you were on a camping trip that went slightly longer than expected. Wait, you're going to erase our memories? Randy yelped. After all this? After I was finally vindicated? No, you'll remember. But anyone you try to tell won't believe you. It's very subtle. They'll just think you're making up stories. So nothing changes, Megan said. Pretty much. I'm keeping the medal, though, Randy insisted, clutching it to his chest. It will disappear when you enter Earth's atmosphere. Sorry. Randy looked genuinely devastated. Crix stepped forward, and despite everything, despite the chaos and the terror and the near-death experiences, he looked almost fond. You 3 are the most frustrating, confusing, and accidentally effective warriors I have ever encountered. You have taught us that sometimes the best strategy is no strategy, that predictability can be a weakness, that taking things seriously all the time makes you vulnerable to people who refuse to. Are you saying we taught you the power of chaos? Derek asked. I'm saying you taught us that the universe is weirder and more complicated than our neat little formations and protocols could ever account for, and that sometimes the people who save you are the ones you least expect. He extended a manipulator appendage toward 9. Derek, the alien equivalent of a handshake. Derek took it. Thank you, Crix said. Truly. Even if you were the wrong people, you were somehow the right people. That's beautiful, man, Derek said, and absolutely ruined the moment by trying to pull Crix into a hug. Crix's eye stalks flailed in panic, but he allowed it. Megan got a handshake, which she accepted while still looking at her phone. Randy got a salute from Thornak, which made him cry again. As they were led back to the ship that would take them home, Derek turned back one last time to look at the alien city, the floating platforms, the thousands of species gathered to see them off. "You think we'll ever come back?" he asked. "Absolutely not," Crick said immediately. "No offense. None taken. This was a great camping trip, though." It wasn't a camping trip. It was a military operation. Same thing, really. On the flight back to Earth, Megan finally put down her phone. So that happened. "We saved the galaxy," Randy said, still sniffling slightly. "We actually saved the galaxy. With a camping stove and bad music," Derek added. "Don't forget the bad music." "I will never forget the bad music," Megan said. "They'll probably ban Earth music as a weapon of mass destruction." They flew in silence for a moment, watching the stars stream past the viewport. "Nobody's going to believe us," Randy said. "Nope," Derek agreed. "And we can't prove any of it." "Nope. But it happened." "Yep," Megan smiled. "Just a little." "Dad?" "Yeah, sweetie." "This was way better than a regular camping trip." Derek grinned. "Best family vacation ever." When they landed back at Pinewood State Park, their tent was exactly where they'd left it. The fire had burned down to embers, and absolutely nothing looked different except that they'd lost 3 days somewhere and couldn't quite explain where. Derek tried to tell his coworkers about fighting aliens. They laughed and asked if he'd been drinking. Randy tried to show his forum friends his proof. They said the photos looked photoshopped and his story was his wildest one yet. Megan posted a video titled, "I saved the galaxy and all I got was this lousy story nobody believes," that got 47 views, mostly from bots. But late at night, when Derek looked up at the stars, he smiled. Somewhere up there, the Galactic Council was probably still arguing about whether recruiting humans had been their best decision or their worst one, and somewhere in the vast darkness between stars, the Vorthan Empire was updating their tactical databases with a new entry: species, humans, threat level, unpredictable weapons, everything, apparently, including cooking equipment and terrible music. Recommended action: avoid at all costs. Back on Earth, Derek started planning his next camping trip. He bought a new tent, better camping stove, and downloaded a playlist of the absolute worst music he could find, just in case. Because the thing about humans is, we don't need prophecies or destiny or special powers. We just need an opportunity to be ourselves, which apparently is terrifying enough on its own. And honestly, that's way more fun anyway.